Hello, I'm Dr. Mumtaz Kassam, an ambassador but deputy head of mission at the Uganda Embassy in Italy. Hello, I'm Ambassador Dr. Mumtaz Kassam, deputy head of mission at the Uganda Embassy in Rome. My mandate is also including the bilateral organizations and multilateral organizations in Italy, especially the UN agencies, FAO, World Food Programme, and IFAD. The Uganda Embassy in Rome is quite an important embassy for us in Europe, as we cover several European countries. And basically, since we handle the multilateral agencies of the United Nations, such as FAO, World Food Programme, and IFAD, there is lots of activity and work in terms of food security. And so agribusiness and agricultural aspects of investments are quite important. Uganda is an important destination for us, and especially in the tourism sector. We have such unique tourism sites, and gorilla trekking. Recently we had the solar eclipse, and especially the primates. So for us in Europe, we are trying our best to promote Uganda. In fact, we are now actually doing brochures in Italian and other languages so that people who don't speak English can read about our wonderful country and make a decision to visit it. The embassy, the Uganda Embassy in Rome, is located very centrally. It's at Giulio Cesare, which is about 10 minutes from the Vatican, and so very easy for people to get to. We handle visas like tourism visas, multiple entry visas, business visas, and of course diplomatic visas for a lot of the UN officials who do travel to Uganda constantly.
Your Excellency, when you left England, there was some allegations which emanated into some kind of a legal battle between you and your assistants. Could you please elaborate on that? What really happened?
Yes, it's rather unfortunate that when I was being transferred to another mission, my domestic worker, initially she was my domestic worker, but later was employed by the Uganda High Commission, since I was entitled to a domestic worker assigned to me. She decided to take me to court, and she alleged initially that I had a personal contract with her in 2004 and that I owed her salaries amounting to £1,125 since 2004. I have been dragged into the system because they started the proceedings in the Chancery Division of the High Court, and she has been to several lawyers, all unfortunately on a conditional fee arrangement, which means on a no-win, no-fee basis. And so I had to defend the proceedings, and that meant coming to London quite often and incurring costs with lawyers. But thankfully, it's now all over.
Now, why do you think she made this allegation, and why do you think it was you?
Well, she was employed by me personally since 1998 as my chef and domestic worker, and she would accompany me as my accompanying maid to England. But when I was transferred to England, and my posting actually began in England in 2004, she decided to join me here, and she was still helping out with official functions at the Uganda High Commission. But in 2006, when the High Commission gave her a contract directly so that she can then be employed by the High Commission, since I became entitled to a domestic worker assigned to me as Deputy Head of Mission, she somehow was misled by people, or perhaps met some people through other people. I have no idea how she met these lawyers. And then she started making all kinds of allegations that I owe her salaries and that she was employed by me since 1998 or 2004. Now, the confusion arose that in her particulars of claim, she kept insisting that there was a 2004 contract, when we proved that there was no 2004 contract, but there was a 1998 contract directly with me. That's when she said, okay, then you owe me all this money from 1998. So the whole case terminated in lots of confusion, lots of wild allegations, and figures that actually didn't even match up.
And how much was she claiming?
She was initially claiming about £70,000, and then, of course, they added up damages, interest, and other issues. And I, as a matter of principle, thought that I don't owe her any money, so I have to defend myself. And I'm very happy to say that justice was done.
Now, do you think that according to the first arrangement that you had with her, she received her salary?
Yes, through my 1998 contract, which was actually signed in Uganda between Duffin and myself, and we are both Ugandan nationals, both domiciled in Uganda. She was receiving her salary in Uganda. At that time, I didn't even anticipate or even foresee that I would become a diplomat, let alone have the privilege of serving my country in England. And so whatever salary was due to her was paid. She came with me to South Africa briefly. I continued paying her salary. She would sometimes send her son or her brother to collect the salary, and we have all the vouchers to prove that she's been paid.
Now, we have had such a cases. I've actually dealt with such a case of a Tanzanian lady. In her circumstances, it was that she was being paid in Tanzania, let me say, rate. In her circumstances, do you think that you paid her in the UK rate, on the UK rate, market rate, or you still paid her on the Uganda market rate?
When she was working with me in Uganda, she was being paid the Ugandan salary, which is the market rate in Uganda. When she came to the United Kingdom as my accompanying maid, she was getting a surplus over her income in Uganda. Then when she became employed by the High Commission in 2006, the High Commission was paying her a salary which they could afford to pay her. So the High Commission's employment was with her on a salary that was being paid for by the High Commission. And the High Commission informed me that I would be responsible for her upkeep, i.e., I would be responsible for her accommodation, for her food, and that they would then be able to pay her a salary. And that is what the arrangement was.
Now, how did this all happen? For example, did she just turn up one day and bring some paperwork, or something was brewing up? What really happened? What triggered this allegation?
I think it's my posting to another destination which triggered it, because she brought some papers to me and said, well, I need you to write a letter that would grant me indefinite leave to remain in the United Kingdom. And I said to her, since you are now employed by the Uganda High Commission, it's the High Commission that's the correct party to give you the letter that you may need. And it is for the High Commission to make a decision on whether they will continue employing her, or whether she would return to Uganda, or whether they would agree to a transfer of her employment. So that is what triggered the whole saga, because I think she was a little short of her 5-year continuous term to qualify for indefinite leave.
Now, in terms of her coming up with these allegations, do you think that she was being influenced by other people, or those other political motives, or what do you think triggered all this in those terms?
I don't think there were other people influencing here, but what I think is that she may have been misadvised by certain people who may have told her, exaggerated her salaries and her figures, and perhaps she was misled. I don't think personally that other Ugandans here or at the mission have influenced her.
Now, take us from day one. She brought these allegations. I know it has been a cost roll on your side in terms of how have you coped? How was it like for those 2 years that you have spent on this matter in the courts, given the fact that you live even out of London, England at the moment?
Well, it's been extremely stressful, not only for me, but for my brothers and sisters and other members of my family who've been extremely supportive. And I think we tried our best to compromise, to negotiate, to discuss things through. She's been treated like a family member, like a sister to me, so I found it quite amazing and very disappointing. But unfortunately, she continued with the proceedings. She changed lawyers several times, and we went to court at least 7 times, and I think her lawyers kept throwing in satellite applications just to try and undermine my confidence, to try and make me give up. But I felt that since I hadn't done anything wrong, justice would prevail. And so I had to continue flying in from Rome quite often, and which wasn't very conducive because I am under stress. I need to sort this matter out. My work at my current mission would obviously suffer. But I managed to come through to London quite often with the thanks of the permission from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Now let's talk about the judge's decision. What did the judge say?
Well, the judge basically came out saying that, in his opinion, from the evidence now available, that she may have sued the wrong party. And basically he said that if the 2006 contract was valid with the High Commission, then she should really sue the High Commission. And this actually triggered from a letter that their lawyers, her lawyers, eventually wrote, saying that they think she may have signed the contract with the High Commission existed, but she may not have signed it. So there was a lot of ambiguity as to what actually transpired and what they were now saying. And I had considerable evidence from 7 witnesses who were testifying to the fact that, yes, she signed the contract with the High Commission, and or she received a salary from the High Commission, and or she did help us at diplomatic functions. So based on what the judge was advising, he invited us to try and see if we could reach some kind of a compromise, or we move on to trial. And so at the end of the day, we decided to settle the matter with her giving me an unreserved apology, her withdrawing all the allegations against me which were deemed to be unfounded. And so the matter got settled within just like half a day.
Now, well, I've read about the issue of jurisdiction, state immunity, and diplomatic immunity. Could you please tell us about that and what is the difference? Because it looks like the judge relied on those issues to make a decision.
Yes, perhaps I should start with the issue of jurisdiction. Since my 1998 contract with Duffin was signed in Uganda, and both our domicile is Uganda, it was quite apparent that Uganda would have jurisdiction on matters relating to certain employment aspects. As far as state immunity is concerned, the Uganda High Commission would have state immunity, and I would have state immunity because I'm a senior official working at the Uganda High Commission and was a diplomat here in Britain since 2005. So I would be covered technically under state immunity. But if there were any issues about it, then I would still have residual diplomatic immunity under Section 39(2) of the Diplomatic and Privileges Act of 1964. The interesting thing on that is that I would have to show that a lot of the functions she was carrying out were to help me and in direct support of my role as a diplomat. So, for example, we host a lot of events at the High Commission. We, as senior diplomats, have to have lots of functions and dinners at our residences. So all these amount to official functions that a diplomat would carry out. So if you can show a link that her role was there to support my diplomatic functions, then residual diplomacy would also apply.
What do you say about those people who might say that maybe you were hiding behind the veil of diplomatic immunity and state immunity?
Well, actually, that's a very interesting point. Ironically enough, because I was a diplomat in this case, that she was advised to take the matter further in the hope that as a diplomat I may not want adverse publicity, I may want to settle since I'm now moving on to another destination. So I believe that these loopholes have to be dealt with, and that it wasn't hiding behind the cloak of diplomacy. It's something we diplomats have to get on with. We are moving to a different destination. You're moving on to another place, and then there are basically a lot of things you cannot discuss or want to say in a court forum. So how do you deal with these issues? You cannot take steps in the proceedings, so you need to be very careful in how you deal with it. So it wasn't really hiding behind a cloak of diplomacy.
Now, I know there are other people maybe who enjoy the diplomatic immunity or state humanity, there might be diplomats, there might be country representatives in other capacities. What lessons have they got to learn from this?
Um, I think what lessons other missions should learn is, for a start, have everything in writing between you and your staff, whether they are domestic staff or the staff that you employ working in your missions. And secondly, any agreement or arrangement you reach regarding, say, for example, accommodation, food and lodging, or other perks that they are entitled to, make sure everything is in writing and very clear. And most importantly, regularly talk to your staff and find out what issues are bothering them and try and discuss things through so that matters do not get this far.
And I know it has been a very difficult time for you as far as this matter is concerned, in terms of time wastage, issues about stress, loss of earnings and feelings as well, traveling between borders, across borders. And what does this judgment mean to you?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted and relieved that after 2.5 years, I've been cleared of wrongdoing and that I've actually extracted an apology and a withdrawal of her claim. And I must say that I'm extremely grateful to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Uganda. All the senior officers, including the minister himself, has been concerned about the case, and they've been very supportive in giving me documentary evidence that I needed and permission to produce these documents. And of course, my enormous thanks to the Uganda High Commission here in London, who've also been very supportive, and the witnesses that had come forward, including Enid Achurabe, the Deputy High Commissioner, Isaac Sebulime, Nathan Benda, my brother Moshin Kassam, an assistant bank manager, Faisal Khan, Rachel Oke, who was also a secretary at the mission, and Beatrice Pachunega, who is now ambassador level in our mission in New York. All of them have been amazing, and my enormous thanks to all of them.
Now, on the last note, what is it you want the world to know?
Well, I'd like to tell the world that I'm not somebody who would eat a maid's salary or who would deduct wages, and that I'm an honest, law-abiding citizen of Uganda and a diplomat. And that means that I believe that I should earn back the respect that I felt I deserve. I would really take this opportunity to thank all my friends, all my colleagues, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the staff at the Uganda High Commission, the witnesses I've just mentioned, for being enormously supportive and who knew and never gave up on the fact that these allegations were just wild and unfounded. And of course, my lawyers, my legal team have been absolutely wonderful. But for those who, for some reason or the other, felt that there might be something in the issues and the allegations that were being raised, I would like to invite you all to read the rulings of the various judges who have taken over the case at different times. Justice Newey, Justice Jonathan Gaunt, and now Justice Smith. And if you read their transcripts, it's quite obvious, as Justice Newey said in the last hearing we had before him, that this whole case appears to be a storm in a teacup. I would also like to thank my colleagues in the High Commission, the Embassy in Rome, the Ambassador, Grace Akello, and my other colleagues who've also been very patient with me as I have had to constantly come to London, and also would like to thank all my friends and colleagues in Uganda. And I'd like to invite all our colleagues and friends and other friends to Uganda to come and see what a beautiful country we do have, and perhaps learn a bit more about our own cultural aspects too. Thank you.